Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of our LinkedIn Lives. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Billy Barnes from IWG, and we're going to be talking about how they're really focused on upskilling their workforce and looking at how they're enabling talent mobility within IWG. So before we begin, it'd be great, Billy, if you could just give a little bit of an intro to who you are and your role at IWG, and also who are IWG.
Yeah, of course. Hi. Thank you, Helen, for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for everybody who's joined to listen in for the next 30 minutes. So as Helen said, I am Billy. I am the Learning and Development Project Lead here at IWG, meaning that I get the pleasure of working with all of our different internal stakeholders to support their learning and development needs. So it could be a piece on Thrive, or we know it as the Academy. It could be a workshop that they want to work on, but we make sure we're providing the support at the time of need by the right people. IWG, International Workplace Group, they are the global leader in flex working space, which means if you want to rent an office space, we are the people to come to. So we look after brands such as Regis, Spaces, Signature that you might have heard of. And we are growing astronomically, and we've got great big goals to achieve with strategies left, right, and centre. But without the people, we can't make that happen, basically.
Awesome, thanks, Billy. And yeah, it's great to be doing this webinar with you because IWG have been partners with Thrive for about 5 years now, so a long established relationship. And I suppose a lot has changed over that time as well. What does the landscape look like for you at the moment in IWG?
Well, IWG are focusing on, I suppose, rapid growth and also changing our people practices of being able to offer flexible working in centres where we need it. We refer to our office spaces as centres, but enabling our colleagues to sort of work at different times, dependent on the business needs, etc. And basically, with the partnering with Thrive, that really enables us to do that, to make sure that our colleagues have training and learning and development opportunities at the point of need, and also access to content as somewhat of a toolkit and resource booklet so that they can continue their work day to day, but also look at their development opportunities.
Awesome. Well, I think one of the things that we really wanted to get out of today, and for the people that have joined the webinar and that are listening, is that kind of, I suppose, a practical understanding of maybe some of the challenges that you're dealing with now, some of those opportunities to make change and to enable your talent, but also to come away with kind of a sense of what can I really do and what can I implement, and also what data are you tracking that might be useful for me to think about in my own workplace as well. So I know there are kind of 3 core areas that we're going to cover over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, and that's really kind of a focus on, I suppose, leadership, line management, and then your advanced center training as well. So it'd be great to hear, I suppose, a little bit about where you started on each of those things, and what that journey's looked like, and where you are now.
Absolutely. So I'll give context from when I joined, I suppose, then I can talk about that experience. So I joined the team in May 2023, and our learning and development focus was hugely around the onboarding experience for our colleagues, especially at field level. Now, when I refer to field level, those are the people who are working in our centres operationally, and also at field sales level. So people out there, out and about, etc., working from all different places, maybe not like a fixed location at all times. And we were really focusing on creating a well-rounded onboarding experience for all of those colleagues. Well, the success was enormous. We did win Onboarding Programme of the Year last year, just via the LPI. Whoop, whoop. Thanks, guys. And so we had that achievement, and we realized what we were doing was working. I guess the next stage of the strategy was, how do we support the development of the people that work for IWG? What else can we do for them? How do we know that they're obtaining new skills? And how do we give access to different levels of development opportunities depending on experience, position, tenure, that sort of thing? So that is how the birth, I suppose, of our 3 core development programs, that's what we call them: advanced center training, the first time manager program and the leadership program were born. And so that was a big focus for 2024, which has put us in enormously good stead for 2025, because one of our strategies is, what can we do to retain the talent that we have at IWG to continue their progression internally, so we can do a lot of internal mobility. So it all sort of set the foundations for the future that we're looking at.
Tell me a little bit more about the onboarding program. Obviously, congratulations again for winning the onboarding program of the year. It's amazing to see that. What does an award-winning onboarding program look like?
I don't want to get too technical about the learning and development, like verbiage and that kind of thing. But what we did was offered an experience where it was a true mix of self-paced learning or workshops to network, and also opportunities for people to really learn whilst on the job. So we provided toolkits and checklists and that kind of thing for them to take away a continuous learning experience. So we have a team, an amazing learning and development team, and I don't know if they're on here, who are incredible at tracking and following up. We have regional support as well, which is fantastic. So our regional learning and development managers focus so hard on building relationships with hiring managers, but also the new hires coming in. We truly believed in that personal connection. And I remember, she's now in my team, Hayley, but when she first started looking after the UK, she was actually Teams messaging every single UK new hire every week. That was how in detail we were getting to making sure the onboarding was an experience, not just a tick box exercise. And I think that's where the award came into play, because we were able to really connect with the people that we were supporting and training, especially as they're starting.
Yeah, it's really important, that kind of, I suppose, that personal connection as well, and seeing something through from start to finish. And I know you're very much focused on the outcomes and the impact of whatever it is that you're driving. So if we take the advanced centered training program as a first point of call,
Sure.
What does that involve, and what were the pain points that you were trying to address with that?
Advanced centre training is sort of at a point that we encourage our colleagues to do it when they're at a level where they're competent in their day-to-day job, where they have if you were doing a benchmarking exercise, they're operating as standards expected. With the advanced centre training, we wanted people to develop their subject matter expertise, so they somewhat become a voice of authority, potentially in all of the topics, where we look at our sort of getting our centres ready for the business, how to onboard customers, how to create a customer service experience, etc. And people will complete the whole program, but as we know in any learning experience, is that we don't necessarily take everything from it. We might just really connect to a particular topic. And that's what we wanted to encourage with the advanced centre training. Our responsibility in learning and development was to create an e-learning that's housed on Thrive, to take them through a journey where they could do this. Now, I want to just check my data here. When it launched, we had 5,844 colleagues. We have almost 13,000 colleagues in the business. So that's a huge number of people who signed up for it. And they developed their expertise. We've had 3,775 people complete it already. The engagement with it, the feedback that we ask for, we seek it out because we've got such good relationships as regional managers to be able to hone people's craft, but also evolve the content that's available. And we have now established really good working ways with the operations teams to make sure that the content remains relevant, that it's up to date, that we're providing the colleagues the content that is sort of suitable and relevant to what they do.
And that kind of feedback, that almost verbatim feedback, that qualitative data that you're getting, is such a key part in the development of programs. And I think it's often not looked at as favorably as quantitative data, but actually being able to kind of get that initial feedback, that understanding of what someone's got out of it, how they're applying it, can actually be a lot more useful in some instances in telling a story. Is that what you found? Was that quite purposeful for you?
Yes, absolutely that, but also the power of recommendation. I think we spoke about this before, is the whole, not necessarily peer-to-peer learning, but if a peer has experienced something, it almost makes you want to have a taste of it yourself. I guess. And so that is where that came into play, of people were developing their skills, they were becoming more expert in it. We saw that from the completions from when we started in 2024 to now, there's been 682 promotions as well internally of those who have completed advanced centre training. So we're seeing a real return on the investment, not only from our side as learning and development in creating the content, but also our colleagues who are investing in their own development as a choice, because we have this eternal debate of people, that time is precious. How do we encourage those to go and seek out their own learning opportunities? It often comes, I truly believe, from what your colleague next to you or on your Teams channel is saying, and you almost want a piece of that pie.
Yeah, it's almost like that mindset piece, isn't it? That actually, if someone else is doing something and they're feeling positive about it, and it's almost like a FOMO as well, that you want to do it because you've seen the success that someone else is having, and also that the figures of over 600 people being promoted into different roles is amazing. Is that how do you set your sights on a figure that high? Is that what you're expecting? Is that below what you're expecting? Where does it fall?
That is an excellent question. We want to reach for the stars, right? We want to support that internal development even before it became an official strategy for this year. Is to see the internal mobility is a success to countries, is a success to individuals. It's a testament to the learning and development experience that we offer as well. But to know that people's time and effort is being rewarded accordingly is a huge success. So obviously we would love to double those numbers, right? If our ethos this year is retention is the new recruitment, we would absolutely like to at least double those numbers to support with that continuous development.
I think one of the things that we often speak about is the power of your line manager in enabling your development opportunities within an organization. So it's also quite refreshing to see that you're doing a program for first-time line managers as well, because again, we all know that a lot of the time people end up in managerial roles without any previous training, and often due to technical skill rather than people skills. So maybe also that plays into a part of how do your managers communicate and share development opportunities that exist within your business, but also how are they being developed as well. So it would be great to hear a little bit more about your first time line manager program as well.
Yeah, of course. So you're absolutely right that this isn't unique to IWG. This is quite common across many industries, is that people get promoted into a managerial position dependent on potentially a subject matter expertise. They're really good at something, so let's reward them accordingly, but aren't necessarily equipped, or they might be equipped in technicality, but maybe aren't confident in stepping into that leadership role. So this was what was built out, was a first-time manager workshop where we were encouraging people who were interested to develop those skills, but also we introduced a condition that for people to be promoted, they had to have completed first-time manager as well. So we were setting a cultural expectation for our colleagues of this is how we expect managers to conduct themselves. You're informed, you've interviewed now, you've got the job, you're already more equipped than you were pre-first-time manager. So that is how that was built out. And in first-time manager, it is a mix, I guess, of self-paced learning on Thrive, but also we host workshops. And that is where the workshop piece around elements of leadership, we get people to do the peer-to-peer learning. Then people pull on their experiences, and you might have people who have actually been managers for a while, but they want to come back and revisit their skills or see what's moved with the times to see if they're still on, trending, I suppose. But we want to make sure that our leaders are culturally equipped for what we see success as at IWG.
It's like you say, setting that standard is really important. I suppose a question I have there is about the decision to make something. So when you're talking about the advanced centre training, that's all very self-paced and based on personal development and the want to improve yourself. Whereas the line manager training sounds quite assigned. It's almost kind of more that you have to do it. How did you make that decision to make something either compulsory versus non-compulsory in those instances?
So I guess it's not necessarily a case of compulsory. I guess it's if you're serious about your development and you do want to step into that managerial role, this is what we expect you to do. So actually with First Time Manager, we have an application process. So even at the point of it being recommended to say, oh, if you want to do this job in the future or any development opportunities into a managerial role in the future, we strongly recommend that you do First Time Manager training. And there is an application process to make sure they have their line managers sign off as well to complete it. We try and encourage our colleagues to do it within 2 months, but if it takes longer, it takes longer. Like nothing is technically mandated, but we do, I suppose, have conditions. So for example, if there was Billy Barnes A and Billy Barnes B applying for a job, but they had exactly the same criteria, it is likely that the Billy Barnes A, who might have completed First Time Manager, we were looking internally, we would sense that as a stronger commitment to their own development to support with the IWG mission.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's showing that kind of commitment to yourself, but also to the business and wanting to lead other people in a certain way. Have you had any feedback from, I suppose, the other side, the people that those line managers are managing, to kind of show how positive the impact has been on them?
So the line managers of the people who are on First Time Manager?
Yeah.
So I guess in that sense, we honestly have more anecdotal feedback. Where we got the feedback from was those who completed the training themselves. So we are really hot on getting feedback proactively, reactively, however you look at it, because we constantly want to evolve our product, I suppose, our learning and development product. And so we're always looking for ways to innovate and change. So feedback from line managers is ultimately that it's supported, right? This has been these developmental programs are supported by line managers. We have I guess our structure is we have country managers. Country managers are effectively regional directors, as the job title alludes to, in each country. And our regional learning and development managers work with them to give them data on completions, who's engaged, where we're struggling, strategies to get more engaged. So we're really creating this operational and learning and development partnership to get their buy-in as well. So it's not just something that I think, oh goodness, another one of my colleagues is out doing this training kind of thing. It's really supporting the strategy of upskill your talent, and you'll have talent who want to stay and who want to progress and do best for the company.
Yeah, it's feeding that holistic experience, isn't it, of bringing people along on a much bigger journey and hopefully a full career with IWG as well. When you were talking about the setting up of First Time Manager program, you mentioned kind of key leadership skills that are part of that program. Do they feed into that broader leadership program as well? So is that kind of a next stage, or what does that look like?
Yeah, next stage. So looking at the leadership program, I guess you get into more of the, I suppose, intricacies of sort of forward planning, strategic thinking, data analysts, that kind of thing. So you're looking at things of how you can that's not a fair word, I guess more with accessible tools to you, really build out a structure and a vision for your own team. So leadership program is for managers of more than one person. They're managers of teams, and understanding that every single person is different that you manage in a team, that it's not one size fits all. You begin looking at the performance management elements as a team level, that kind of thing. So you think bigger picture, more strategy, less reactive, I would say.
And you've had some kind of real success with that as well. Can you tell me about just taking it back to I suppose the challenges or pain points that you were hoping to address with your leadership program, and what that journey's looked like and where you're at with that journey? It'd be really interesting to hear.
So leadership program, this is a true cultural piece. And again, I mean, I've said it once before, this isn't unique to IWG. There are, in general, people get to a certain level in the business and it's almost as if the development opportunities stop. It's like you've got to the end of the road unless I sign up to an apprenticeship if I'm in England, or unless I look for a funded course somewhere and that kind of thing. But actually, we had an opportunity to, I guess, shape and influence the culture that we wanted to create in IWG. So therefore, we built out this content that it was, again, a mix of self-paced and workshop exercises. And this was so important, especially at that leadership level. One of the key tools to being a leader is communicating effectively. And ultimately, being in that peer-to-peer workshop environment as well, and getting perspectives from different positions, different people around the world, etc. It's filling up your cup and making you realize that actually this isn't the end of the road and how far I can get to with my leadership. This is now spiked to new curiosity, and I want to learn more about such and such, for example.
And you're seeing quite good success with the amount of people that are coming onto that program, and how many people are completing it as well. Is it then looking at how those people move cross business into different leadership roles or different types of, I don't know, strategic roles, for example?
Yeah, exactly that. And that's going to be one of our big focuses, especially in my role for this year, is looking at that leadership program of, and as expected, because it's a more executive level training, I would suppose. We've had 463 people register, 135 people have completed. But actually the next step is seeing, where did those people go? What's the internal mobility there? Is it a step up? Is it a step sideways? So that will be a big thing that we'll be looking at this year, is to really sort of see where the wins are, but also where we can do more work with it.
I think it's always useful to think about, actually, you've rolled out this program, this has been the engagement with it, this is how many people have completed, to your point, and then that next step. So you can't get to that next step unless you've got that initial set of data to understand who's gone through it, what that looks like, and then kind of adapt and change whatever you're delivering to suit the audiences coming through, and then look at that kind of broader, as I said, holistic view of what this is all feeding into. So it's really great to hear that you kind of, I suppose, bringing all those pieces together as well. And have you got any hopes for that program in the future? What's the goal?
So the evolution of that, I suppose, are delivering learning opportunities that aren't part of effectively a whole curriculum, that they're actually more of an opportunity for people to either recognize it themselves, or through recommendation, through coaching, or in conversations with their own line managers, of other opportunities for their learning with IWG. Which is funny enough, because I was just talking to somebody who had no idea that we ran a coaching program internally, but we do. And that was one of the things that was highlighted through an opportunity for leadership development. But also it was birthed from what we have inside, which is called an innovation hub. We do that quarterly in our L&D team, and we've launched a global coaching program that we facilitate very, very regularly. And that just shows that there's an element with the coaching program of culturally, how we want to communicate with people and encourage autonomy and feedback, etc. But also potentially as a leader, that's the only thing they might need a bit of help with as per their own observation. So they don't need a whole curriculum. They would like to go on a 2-day workshop. They follow an accreditation process, and then therefore they're qualified in that coaching methodology. Another thing that's come out of the leadership program, also the Innovation Hub, is a presentation skills training. So what this then does is allows us to create bespoke content for colleagues that are either asking for it because now they have the confidence to do so, or we're seeing opportunities from engagement or indeed observations in our workshops to say, oh, we could do some work around this, because we see that presentation skills across the presentations that they've had to deliver in the leadership program needs some refining.
Yeah, great. That kind of adaptability to feedback, and a pattern in what people are asking for and what people need as well. I'm just conscious, as we head towards the end of our conversation, if anyone does have any questions for Billy, please feel free to kind of pop them in the chats, and we'll answer them as the conversation starts to draw to a close. We've only got about 5 more minutes. So if you start sending your questions through, if there are any, we'll try to address them. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, Billy, I'd love to pick up on just a couple of things in the last few minutes around your approach to learning design in general and creating these experiences for people, because you've mentioned blended solutions quite a lot, and then coaching there as well. Why is it so important to you to take that approach to the experiences that you're creating?
Because it cannot possibly be one size fits all. But I just think the way that I even just digest information is so different from how my colleague Hayley, how she absorbs information. So I just don't think we can necessarily funnel people into one way of experiencing things. And yes, we sometimes have to do things that make us feel a bit uncomfortable, or you think, oh, I don't want to read this really lengthy document. But actually, I know that at the end of it, I get technically rewarded with a workshop, which is what I love, kind of thing. So it's about really creating a balance. And also, there are plenty of ways to learn. Like, what I absolutely love about Thrive, and if I refer to it as the Academy, it's the same thing, everybody. What I love about Thrive is that it has become our source of truth, I suppose, for all of our colleagues. We have incredible engagement on it. Lots of people use the search function to look for what they're needing. And so whilst Thrive for us serves as a learning platform first, we're also finding ways to integrate it as a communications platform to continue the narrative, one source of truth, and this is where you come. And people will have different accesses to different things, videos, PDFs. We have SCORM files, which are built outside of Thrive, but everything feels like it belongs in one place, despite how you digest that information.
And I think it's that kind of different access to different means of information that's so important, but also that the borderline or the line between learning and comms as well is the crossover is so intricate, I suppose, and enabling people to have that one source of truth is so important, because so often we're seeing, not only from in your instance, Billy, but from lots of different customers, that it's that ambiguity of information and not really knowing where you can go to find that truth that becomes an issue for people. And so approaching it in the way that you're doing provides that consistency and reliability, and therefore makes it stickier for people, that actually they know where to go and they want to go there because it's reliable for them. I'm just conscious we've just had a question through, so it would be great to kind of get that on screen, which is, I'm currently designing a new manager pathway and was interested to hear what your top 3 skills are in your offering. Is that a question you're able to answer, Billy?
Yes, absolutely. Of course it is. So the top 3 offerings that my personal opinion in all of we offer across the leadership and first time manager program are performance management conversations, your own SWOT analysis. I think as a leader, you have to assess yourself, because we're so keen to assess everybody else, but unless we actually reflect on our own things. And also data analysts. This is my achievement will be by the end of the year, that I'm going to get super confident with data. But I think whilst I'm passionate about all things people, there's also that element where we really need to make sure we're backing our arguments up and that we're presenting our findings and business results confidently and with clarity. So those are my 3 things.
Great answers as well, and I think they'll probably resonate with a lot of people that have joined the webinar today, Billy. I am conscious we're pretty much at time, so if there are any last minute questions, we'll hang on for just a second. But Billy, thank you so much for sharing all of that wonderful stuff that you're doing. I'm sure if people do have questions, they're able to reach out to you on LinkedIn. Would that be the best way?
Absolutely. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will talk to you about development opportunities until the cows come home. So thank you so much, Helen, for having me today. And thank you for all of those who joined.
Yeah, no worries. Good stuff. Well, yeah, thank you, everyone.